Hey friends, today I want to share a story with you. It's full of feelings, twists, and a little shock. I hope you enjoy the ride, and stay with me till the end. Ready? Let's dive in. It happened during our family Christmas dinner. My mom casually pointed toward the garage and said, "Your spot's out there." My brother burst out laughing. "Even the dog got a seat before you did." I scanned the room. Every place was marked with a name. Smiles everywhere, just not on mine. So I grabbed the gift addressed to me from under the tree, turned to him, and said, "Check beneath your plate." Then I walked out without a second glance. I was halfway down the driveway when the shouting started. Christmas at my parents' house was always a spectacle. Strict traditions, rigid expectations, and a narrow view of what family meant. For years, I blamed it on stress or the chaos of having too many people crammed into one home. But deep down, I knew better. There was something colder at play. I just didn't want to face it. I got there a little early, arms loaded with thoughtfully wrapped gifts. The driveway was overflowing, so I parked a block away and made my way up the frosty walk. The house sparkled with lights. Laughter drifted out the windows, and I paused at the door to pull on a smile. Inside, everything hit me at once: candles, pine, music, voices. That kind of warmth that feels more performative than personal. My mom came around the corner wearing her holiday mask, the tight-lipped smile she saves for special occasions. No greeting, no hug. Just a quick jerk of her thumb toward the garage. That's when it landed. My seat wasn't inside. I'd been assigned to the garage. Like a spare piece that didn't fit. Like I wasn't worth a real chair. The folding table was set up out there, between storage boxes and dusty decorations. I paused, hoping she was kidding. But my brother's laugh told me she wasn't. And the rest? They just sat and watched. My chest tightened. I glanced at the long table. Every place had a name card. Mine wasn't there. Even the dog had a spot, literally, with a dish on the floor, tied with a red ribbon. I didn't say a word. I walked to the tree, picked up the single package meant for me, turned around, and looked straight at them. No one moved. My brother was smirking, thinking he'd won. But he didn't know what was coming. None of them did. I'd been ready for this moment. All I said was, "Look under your plate," and I left. The chill outside bit at my face, but I didn't stop, didn't look back, didn't need to. I was barely down the walk when I heard it. Chairs scraping, voices rising, someone calling after me. Not to come back. Just pure panic. That was the first time I smiled all day. They were about to uncover what I'd left behind. And Christmas? It was far from over. I didn't go home right away. I ended up at a small diner on the other side of town. The kind that stays open on holidays. It was nearly empty. Just a few staff looking like they'd rather be anywhere else, and an older couple sharing dessert in a booth. I ordered a coffee and watched the steam swirl, wondering how long it would take for someone to call. But no one did. Not for a long time. Which meant they were dealing with the fallout. Under my brother's plate, I'd left a letter. 3 pages. Folded tight and taped down. Every word chosen with care. Each line supported by proof. I hadn't planned to use it. Not really. But something cracked in me when they pushed me to the garage, as if I were nothing. The letter started simply, "I know everything you've done. Over the last 8 months, I'd unraveled the truth, bit by bit. It began with small inconsistencies, strange charges on a shared card I was still linked to, money vanishing from an old family account, savings bonds my grandfather left for me mysteriously gone. All of it gone, with no answers. Whenever I asked about the inconsistencies, I was brushed off, told I was overthinking, accused of being paranoid. So, I stopped asking, and I started documenting. Bank records, transaction logs, screenshots, even a voice recording. My brother and father in the garage one summer evening, laughing about how clueless I was. Turns out, they drained my share of the family trust to help him float a second mortgage he couldn't afford. My letter spelled everything out. Names, dates, copies of the evidence. And at the end, I let them know that the paperwork had already been filed. Legal action was underway. But that wasn't the end of it. There was a second envelope tucked beneath my father's chair, just for my parents. Inside was a straightforward ultimatum, one they would fully grasp the moment they checked their inbox. I had copied every document to our extended family, my attorney, and, perhaps most damning in their eyes, the church board. My mom loved appearances. That shiny image they clung to like gospel? It was already unraveling by the time someone passed the rolls. I lingered at the diner until closing, nursing a cold cup of coffee, phone quiet in my hand. No calls, no texts. But as I walked out into the parking lot, I noticed a missed voicemail, unknown number. I hit play. It was my cousin, his voice low and tight, like he didn't want anyone else to hear. Dinner had erupted into chaos. My mom had shouted at my dad. My brother stormed off. My uncle tried to smooth things over, but everything kept coming back to the envelope. They never expected me to draw a line. They certainly never expected me to be this precise. As I stood under the street lamp, breath rising in the cold night air, something shifted deep inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being walked over. I was the reckoning they never saw coming. And I wasn't done yet. The next morning, I woke to 36 missed calls and over a dozen voicemails. Most were from my parents. Some from relatives. One from my brother's fiancée, who apparently had no idea about the financial mess until I dropped the truth like a bomb. Her message was unsteady. Apologetic, almost, but not quite. I didn't return a single call. Instead, I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and got to work. While they'd spent the night spiraling, I'd been finalizing things with my lawyer. The letter under the plate wasn't a stunt. It was a starting shot. The trust my grandfather established had legal protections. And what they did, it wasn't just shady. It was theft. Punishable theft. By noon, I had confirmation. Official notice had been served. My parents and brother were being pursued through civil court. The shared account was frozen, and I'd already authorized a firm specializing in asset recovery to act on my behalf. They thought I'd fold. They thought I'd flinch. They had no idea how carefully I'd been building my case. That afternoon, there was a knock on my door. It was my mother, mascara smudged, shoulders hunched in a winter coat, clutching a half-eaten casserole like it might fix things. I didn't answer. She knocked again, harder this time, then tried the doorknob. Lock. Finally, she shouted through the door, saying it had all gone too far. That we were family. That Christmas was meant for forgiveness. Forgiveness. That word she always used when sweeping things under the rug. When she excused my brother's lies. When she dismissed my hurt. When she asked me to shrink for the sake of harmony. But this wasn't harmony. It was silence, forced and weaponized. And I was done being quiet. I turned my back on the door and walked away. She lingered outside for another 10 minutes, cycling through sobs, raised voices, and finally whispering my name like it was some kind of spell that could turn the clock back. But it couldn't. Later that evening, a message popped up. From my uncle. He said my parents were unraveling. My brother was seething. And the scandal had already made its way to the church board. That pedestal my mother had polished for decades? It was crumbling. Whispers were spreading. People were starting to ask questions. And every answer only made the picture worse. For once, I wasn't the black sheep. They were the ones under scrutiny. I poured a glass of wine, turned on reruns, and let the rest of the world spin without me for a while. But I wasn't under any illusions. This wasn't the end. And I still had one more move to make. I didn't go back to that house because I missed them, or because I wanted closure. I went back because I needed them to see, really see, that the person they used to control no longer existed. That garage chair wasn't a humiliation. It was my catalyst. When I pulled up, the house looked still. No twinkling lights. No Christmas music drifting out the windows. The cheer had drained, replaced by quiet dread. My dad answered the door. He looked hollow, worn down by sleepless nights and fraying nerves. The same man who used to tower over me with disdain couldn't even meet my gaze. I stepped in silently. My mother sat curled on the couch, wringing a tissue to shreds between her fingers. She opened her mouth, but I lifted my hand, not to scold, but to make it clear. I would speak, and she would listen. I told them I wasn't there to mend anything. I was there to make sure there were no misunderstandings. The restitution process was already in motion. What couldn't be retrieved would be settled in court. I wasn't looking to shame them, but I wouldn't protect them either. The extended family already knew. Soon, the community would too. That fallout wasn't mine to absorb. Then my brother walked in, still clinging to that smug look he wore like armor. Only now, it cracked around the edges. I handed him an envelope. Inside, a full accounting of every dollar he siphoned from the trust, complete with interest, fees, and a legal demand for repayment or forfeiture. He didn't say a word. As I turned to leave, my mother broke. Her voice cracked through the room, begging me not to go. Not for forgiveness, not for healing, but because she was afraid. Afraid of losing their image. Afraid of being exposed. Afraid of the woman I had become. Someone unwilling to stay silent. I paused at the door, turned back just once, and I told her this. Family isn't blood. It's the people who show up, who make room for you, at the table, in their lives, in their hearts. Not the ones who shove you out to the cold and call it tradition. What we had, that wasn't family. That was survival, and I'm done surviving. I walked out, not with rage, not with victory, just clarity. A weight lifted that didn't belong to me anymore. Later that night, another message came through, from the same cousin who had called from the fallout days earlier. He said he respected what I'd done, that he and others had seen it, sensed it, but never found the courage to act. I told him the truth. You don't wait for someone else to stop the cycle. You stop it yourself. By drawing a boundary. By standing firm. By saying, this ends with me. That Christmas, I gave myself something no one else ever had: freedom. And I've never looked back. If you've stayed with me to the end, thank you. You get it. So don't just be a bystander. Be part of the story. Hit subscribe and help me reach 2,000 subscribers, because this chapter might be closed. But the next one, it's just beginning.